Have you played Bloodborne? A FromSoft game that made me feel so engrossed in the ambiance and general tone that the gameplay nearly became secondary. I remember feeling the weight of the world around me, constantly pressing down and reminding me that I'm in this finely crafted, near eldritch hell and loving my time there. Moonscars, at times, reminds me of that feeling. Moonscars, developed by Black Mermaid and published by Humble Games, is a Souls-like 2D action platformer that resembles a Metroidvania and has some interesting roguelite elements baked in. You take on the role of Grey Irma, a Claiborne warrior driven by a lonesome purpose. Find the sculptor and unravel the mystery of your existence and the world around you. You discover more about her story and the stories of those she has known as you progress through a beautiful gothic landscape. And I do mean beautiful. One of the most compelling reasons to play Moonscars is the gloomy space you traverse, and the low-res pixel art that maintains stunning ambiguity throughout the entire journey. Not only in the attack animations of Grey Irma and the denizens you must eliminate, but the reflections, the brief bits of sky that break through the castle walls and the tree lines, and the moonlight that brings a cold familiarity. The entire time I had my hands on this game, nearly 15 hours, I was captivated by the art direction. And while the biomes in the game don't differ enough to offer a huge variety of settings, the subtle changes from area to area were appreciated and made my experience more enjoyable overall. That being said, navigating in this game did not feel intuitive at times. There were very few things in a Metroidvania-type game that hurt more than being unreasonably lost, and that was the position I found myself in a few times. The map isn't as detailed as it needs to be, so finding routes that were unexplored were hard to spot and harder to compare to the likes of a dead end or boss room. Your mileage may vary on this one, but I did find the map to be a bit of a letdown. Moonscars is a Souls-like game, so much like others in the genre, the story and the characters you meet on your journey are cryptic in nature. Some interactions with key characters in the hub world really have you scratching your head as to what the hell they're telling you, and unless you pay close attention, follow the threads of side quests, as minor as they are, and commit to the story the game is trying to tell, you might be a little lost. But that being said, the times I did interact with these varied character personalities were a nice reprieve from the grueling combat. Grey Irma has a goal, and what stands in the way of said goal is many enemies and a handful of bosses. Pattern realization and practice allows the player to become more competent with time and effort. You can equip accessories that aid you in your journey for some stat boosts, and you have simple and straightforward combat capabilities. A regular slash attack that can be comboed or held to launch an enemy further back, a parry that is nearly essential to progress in Moonscars, a heal that dips into your attack spell reserve, or Ichor in this game, spells that you unlock on your skill tree with the currency of the world, Bone Dust, and a special weapon. And here's where the roguelike elements start to show just a bit. Sooner rather than later, a mechanic known as the Doppelganger will be introduced to you, the player. This is exactly how it sounds. You will fight a version of you with all the abilities you have when you rest at a mirror checkpoint. Think bonfire. Once you defeat this reflection of self, you will be rewarded with a menu to choose between 3 special weapons, all offering different boons, effects, and attack styles. I really like this weapon choice mechanic. I was motivated to try out each of them to change up my playstyle, and I think there's something here for everyone. Along with the somewhat random aspect of special weapons comes a mechanic called Spite. Once you dispatch enough enemies, you will level up your Spite, allowing you to pick from 3 boons, such as increased crit chance, chance to refund all of your Ichor on spellcast, etc. These Spite levels really did feel substantial, and greatly helped during my climb up to Apex Castle, and while there isn't a large variety of Spite boons to pick from, there is enough to feel the difference in your particular strength from run to run. Moonscars is difficult. Remember those doppelgangers I mentioned? Yeah, they're no joke. Seriously one of the more difficult encounters for me, and you have to fight them upon exiting the mirrors/bonfires. Nearly all of them. So let's say you're me and you muck up your attempt to dispatch the version of you that wants to fight. Well, tough cookies. Moonscars has a mechanic called Moon Hunger that triggers upon death. Basically, if you die, you respawn in the world with a higher difficulty setting. Enemies will have much more health, and this isn't even mentioning the gilded enemies that are nearly impossible to kill without some sort of magical aid, and they deal a crazy amount of damage. This is what awaits you upon failure. The Doppelganger and even the regular encounters were already difficult, without the addition of health and damage supplied by this punishment, and I found myself frustrated with the game for putting me in a more strenuous combat scenario. If you have enough of certain resources called glands, ew, I know, you can reset the moon and go back to the original difficulty, but these are used for purchasing items in the hub world, so it's confusing for the player early on. Eventually, I would hoard these glands, ew, again, I know, and use them solely for the purpose of reverting the moon back to normal. That felt not great. An interesting gameplay modifier that really missed the mark as far as feeling fair and challenging when applied to the player after defeat. Moonscars is also difficult due to a few shortcomings. First and foremost, for me, is the fact that you have no upward slash in this game. The best you have is a jump and forward-facing attack. Every single flying enemy in this game is absolutely abysmal to fight. Unless you have a ranged magic spell, you have to jump awkwardly for far too long to reach the enemy, really taking the wind and momentum out of your sails. The parry system feels great when you nail the timing, but sometimes with a flurry of enemies around you, it's hard to take in where Grey Irma needs to be facing to deflect the blow, causing a good parry input to miss, which led to some frustration. For comparison's sake, Hollow Knight or even Blasphemous's combat felt fantastic and tight with the controls. Every time I would die in those games, I would think, yeah, that was on me, I can do better. Some encounters in Moonscars had me feeling a little cheated, which is such a disappointing way to die in a Souls-like as unforgiving as this one.
Clay, bone powder, and a drop of ichor.
So closing thoughts. I think the aesthetic for Moonscars is fantastic. I loved exploring the castle grounds and submerging myself in the art that's presented here because it's really, really good. And the music and ambience that accompanies it does a great job setting the tone. Iconic style from the drop. Unfortunately, I don't think that the powerful art direction outweighs the shortcomings of a difficult for the sake of being difficult combat, unintuitive map design and route planning, and an overall underwhelming and purposefully lofty plot. If you're in the mood for a 2D Metroidvania-esque action platformer that has some dark gothic tones, like that of Bloodborne or Blasphemous, and don't mind putting up with some unbalanced combat and frustrating deaths, I think you'll enjoy this. The $20 price tag and around 15 hours of gameplay seems more than fair, if you're up for the gameplay that Moonscars provides. Difficult, unyielding, and at times, unwieldy. I recommend Moonscars to these select few, 6 out of 10. Thanks for watching my review of Moonscars. If you enjoyed your time here, please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more content like this.